Hello and welcome to the MSC Performance Podcast. This is episode 14. My name is Mark, and today I am very excited to invite a really special guest today, Mr. Jazwan Shergill. How are we doing, Jazz?
Hi, Mark. Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on, mate.
You're welcome. Thanks for taking some time out of your schedule to join us. So, wow, where to begin with Jazz? So, Jazz is a member of MSC Performance. He's an unbelievable weightlifter, reigning British champion, reigning English champion, British record holder in the 61 kilo class for the clean and jerk. I've had to write the number down, 131 kilo clean and jerk, which isn't your best clean and jerk, by the way. We'll get into that a bit later. Jazz has got a long history of weightlifting, and is currently working towards the 2022 Commonwealth Games, which are to be held, of course, in Birmingham. So really looking forward to this chat. So it's going to be a very sort of soft interview style, and we're going to sort of ask Jazz a load of questions and get some insight into what it's like being an elite athlete, what it's like training in lockdown, and a bit of history of how he's got to where he's got and what lies in store for the future. So it's worth saying, as well as his athletic achievements, Jazz is probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet, and is a true kind of symbol of what we, of a perfect sort of model member of MSC. So one of our core values is the word humble, and I think for anyone who knows Jazz, the coaches and the members will agree that there's no one more humble than this guy. He'll rock up into the gym. If you didn't know how good he was, you wouldn't have a clue. Just rocks in, very polite, says hello to everyone, cracks on, and before you know it, he's clean and jerking 140 kilos behind you, and it's pretty special. But Jazz is a great help for very encouraging to all our members, and obviously at MSC we encourage people of all sorts of ability level. Doesn't really come into it for us. It's obviously nice to have elite athletes like Jazz, but we also take on beginners. But Jazz really incorporates everything that we're all about, where there's there's absolutely zero intimidation. Everyone's very welcome, and the top guys like Jazz, are so supportive and welcoming and helpful for the rest of the guys, and we're all inspired as well by you, mate. So thanks for it.
It comes from the top as well, like the way the gym's run from you guys, Luke, Sonia, Ben. I think everyone there has that same attitude. So it's definitely a great atmosphere at MSC.
Thanks, mate. That's awesome. Wicked. So, mate, I guess where to start? Obviously, it's a bit of a strange time at the moment with the lockdown. How's your training going? How are you doing?
Yeah, at first training was very difficult. I think because I work as a teacher as well, so we were plunged into a lot of uncertainty with teaching. We had to change to completely online teaching. So the stress of adjusting to that at first made it very difficult to kind of get some consistency with training. But I'm getting there, building the consistency. And now I feel like, I've kind of got established my routine again, and, I'm excited about my goals again, and looking forward to competing again, hopefully in the summer if all falls well.
Amazing, mate. So are you sort of training out your garage, or in your front room, or outside?
Yeah,
how's it working?
Got a little room in the garden, so it's pretty well kitted out. I've been weightlifting for a long time, so we've accumulated a lot of equipment. My family's all into training. My dad, who got me into weightlifting, he really values strength sport, so got plenty of kit, fortunately.
Amazing, mate. Amazing. And what's the obviously the main goal, I imagine, now is working towards the Commonwealths in 2022. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're a Brummie lad yourself, born and raised. So how does it, first of all, how does it feel to have the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham? I mean, fingers crossed, obviously, with COVID.
Yes.
how does it feel, and what's going on in terms of the prep for that?
Yeah, I mean, that feels amazing. I mean, I don't normally, like, with my aspirations, I don't normally tie my aspirations to competitions. Like, I never think like, oh, I wanna compete at this competition. I want to win this medal. I don't kind of have that outlook. I used to a lot when I was younger. I used to like daydream about going to this competition, that competition, winning medals at internationals. But now I'm all just committed to like the process of just being a better weightlifter. Like, that's really what drives me. That's all my goal is. So I'm more committed to the process rather than daydreaming about like competitions. But the special thing about this, I think I'll be 29 at the Birmingham Games, so I feel like I'll be at my peak. So I think this Commonwealth Games being in Birmingham will just make it special, just because I'll have my family there, my friends there, and I feel like it'll be a real like defining checkpoint in my career. So for that reason, I'm really looking forward to it.
Mate, absolutely buzzing. We'll be there as well, mate, for sure.
Yeah. Repping MSC, of course.
Of course, mate. Of course. We'll all support in our MSC singlets as well. You'll be able to see us in the crowd. Yeah. Like, how cool is it just having like the Commonwealths in Birmingham, man? That's like, I'm not sure it's sunk in for me, but for you as an athlete, you know, as a competitive athlete, that's incredible, isn't it?
I know. I mean, it just feels kind of poetic, and it just makes it feel like it's my time, and that's what's what's motivating me. I really want to give a good account of myself. Like, for me, it's not about the fact that it's a Commonwealth Games. It's not about the fact that it's like a prestigious event. It's just the fact that it's in my home city. I'll be at my peak. I want to really like give a good account of myself, and I have family there, friends there, you guys there at the gym. So it'll just be special for that reason, and it's really like motivating me.
Fantastic, mate. I've no doubt you're making a great account of yourself. So that's amazing, mate. So with just going back to, actually, you're talking about sort of focusing on the processes rather than the outcome. I find that really interesting. I read a book by a guy called Bill Walsh, who's an American football. And the title of the book is "The Score Takes Care of Itself," and I think that's really interesting. Like, he goes into massive depth on preparation, details, training, making sure like you're getting all those the things that people can't see, getting those details right, and then transferring that onto the stage is like, okay, I'm so well drilled, I'm so practiced, I'm just in the zone, and that is gonna literally take care of itself. So for you, is that how you think? So when you're on the platform, you're not necessarily thinking of that competition in 2 weeks. You're thinking of the day to day and getting the prep right. So it's a nice smooth transition into competition.
Yeah, I think the quote, I haven't heard that quote before, but I think it perfectly encapsulates my approach to competing. I've been competing for a long time, so that, like, people are surprised. It's actually like my 16th year of weightlifting. And I'm only 28 just, so people are always surprised when they find out how long I'm going to be competing for. So I think that approach has just come through experience. So when I was younger, sometimes I would like overanalyze details. I would get anxious, projecting like my goals in a couple of weeks of the competition. But then I just learned that it means nothing. Your performance is dictated by what you've done in training, and it's about your ability to like manage your thoughts. It's not like your performance is already dictated by what you've done in training, by your preparation. So I really think committing to the process is, like you said, the outcome takes care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fascinating, like, especially with a sport like weightlifting, where there's no time to think or analyze performance in the moment. Obviously, you've got gaps in between lifts, but like you lift 1 to 3 seconds, maybe, or less than that with the speed you lift that, mate. But it's almost like you don't want to overanalyze on the day. Your thinking work's probably done with your breakdowns and your technical bits in the gym, isn't it? And then on the day, it's keeping that clear mind, and just letting it flow, just being in that flow that you hear sort of elite athletes and coaches talking about.
Definitely. And I think like with mental toughness as well. I think I'm really good at performing, and I think a big part of that is like my ability to like manage my thoughts. I think a lot of people think mental toughness is being able to like talk yourself up or like psych yourself up, but for me, it's kind of the opposite kind of thing. It's more about being able to like let go. Like I think that takes a lot of bravery, and that takes a lot of resilience to be able to like let go of negative thoughts and just kind of just let go and just understand that you've done the preparation, you've done the training. What will be will be. The only thing that can sabotage you is letting the thoughts get to you.
Yeah.
So for me, like mental toughness, you know, it's not like about psyching yourself up. It's about having the strength to just let go and say, you know, I'm gonna like perform my heart out, and well, you know, I've done my training, I've done my preparation, I'm confident in that, and just about letting go.
Mate, that's amazing. Like, and it does come with experience, doesn't it? Definitely. I think like when you're young, and like I can only relate from more of a sort of team sport point of view in rugby, but like I think there's a lot of similarities there.
Mm-hmm.
And probably in rugby, the days of like, you know, you used to all get around in the huddle and it'd be the guy in the middle giving it the beans and going mad and like trying to psych yourself up. But it's actually like, you know, I think especially when you get a sort of decent level and above, like you're dealing with guys who want it anyway. That's a given. You know,
exactly.
you don't need that. You don't need that kind of outside motivation. And as you say, like if we're not well prepared for a Saturday, like if we're training well during the week as a team on a Tuesday, Thursday night, I've done my individual prep right. I turn up on a Saturday and I'm very much, I'm maybe learning this really in the last couple of years, but like I'm very much trying to be actually a bit more relaxed, a bit more just in the flow, because for me personally, like I've had my worst games when I've been like sort of over worried about the outcome, the result, the performance of me personally. So I think there's a lot of synergy there between two different sports. It's really interesting.
Something you said important as well about the unimportance of like external motivation almost. I feel like you know, you can have all the external motivation, you can feel pumped up, you know, you can watch a Rocky montage before you comp or before your game. But when it's your third attempt, when you're on top of that bar, like all that vanishes. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like all that vanishes, and what it comes down to is like what you have inside that internal motivation. And I imagine it's the same with rugby. Like, you know, when you've got a guy running at you, or when you're running for like a try or whatever, all that external motivation disappears. You know, it's all about what you have inside.
Yeah.
So I really think like cultivating like the internal process, you know, focusing on like the process of training preparation. That's where it is. That's where your focus should be. You know.
I think like when you play your best in rugby, I mean, like is when you're in that flow. You know, you're in that flow, and it's that perfect like anxiety, arousal, like balance that you sort of learn about, and it's that's when you're at your best. And I imagine like it's very similar for weightlifting. Actually, 100%. It's really interesting, mate. Like sports psychology is such a huge, like obviously there's, you know, a massive thing is obviously the physical prep towards your competition, and like you've got the volume and the intensities in the bank ready for that showdown. But you know, that's a given, and we know about that. But like the psychological thing is really interesting. I think it's like I think it's probably the most undervalued area of sports science, if I'm honest, like across the board, all sports.
I think I credit like a lot of my success just to like my mental approach as well, just to that psychological approach. Like, I mean, if you get like the top 5, top 6, 67s in the country, I've probably got the lowest squat, I've probably got the lowest deadlift. Like, I'm not the strongest guy on comp day, but I think it's like my ability to perform, like my will, my mental game. I think that's what like separates me, and I think that's what allows me to kind of like outperform like my own potential.
Maybe
it's so important,
mate. 100%, like absolutely huge, isn't it? Like maybe allows you to, you know, to punch above maybe where your strength levels are at, and your strength levels are obviously very good, but like you know what I'm trying to say, like you know, just giving you the ability to push on a little bit, and someone else
get the most out of your body. I think is
exactly. So that's brilliant, mate. That's awesome. I mean, in terms of mental strength, we're going to go into the British champs, the British championships in 2019 a little bit later. But that for me, I saw a different side of you there, where that focus, mate. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And I don't think I've seen the mental strength that it took when you went for that last lift. But we'll go into that a little bit later.
Funny, like when we do talk about it, you mentioned about confidence in preparation. Like, the reason we'll expand on it later, but it was confidence in preparation. Like,
you just knew, man. You just knew. Like, it was. I've never seen such like self-belief and confidence in what was a very difficult moment. But we won't spoil any more. We'll get into that a bit later. I want to go off piece slightly, mate, and just talk about like your career. So obviously you're an elite weightlifter, but you also have a job alongside that. You know, there's not the luxury of, you know, some other full-time sports like football or rugby, even, like, you know, things like that. So you're a teacher, and how do you balance being an elite weightlifter and a teacher as well? How does that work?
I mean, honestly, like, I think this answer will, like, it's probably won't be what people expect, but I really think that if you want it bad enough, like, you'll make the necessary adjustments to your lifestyle, and like, if you really care, like, you'll get rid of the superfluous things, you'll commit your time to what's important, you won't spend your time doing things that you don't actually find meaning in, and, you know, you'll find there is actually a lot of time in the day to be able to balance training and work. I think really, like, you know, I could talk about like routine tips. I could talk about like, you know, like how I manage like my to-do list or whatever. But really, what it comes down to is just wanting it enough, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
I really think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think
being passionate about it. Like, because I'm passionate about weightlifting, because I'm passionate about teaching, that dictates my priorities. So that's what I prioritize. You know, I live quite a simple life. I don't do superfluous things. Like, I do the things I put my time towards are things I care about, and that's really the core of, I think, why I've been able to be successful balancing a career with weightlifting. Like, that's really like the core of it, I think.
Amazing. Like, there's 24 hours in a day. That's never going to change, is it?
Yeah.
So, you know, you take your sleep out of the equation, you take your work out of the equation, and then you've got a certain amount left to work with. And it's, you know, it's often more time than people think. And like you say, it's prioritizing, isn't it? And you're gonna, you know, if you've got a passion for something, you're likely to prioritize it, aren't you? So
exactly. Like, if you care enough, like, you'll make the necessary adjustments. I imagine it's the same with you, like running a gym, and like doing your own training, and then having your rugby. Like, it's because you're passionate about your work at the gym, you're passionate about rugby, you're passionate about training. You commit your time how you need to, you know, to accomplish your goals. You don't feel bummed out about, oh, I don't have enough time to do this, to do that, because you're spending your time how you want. You're driven by your goals. So I imagine it's the same kind of approach that we both have.
I think it is, mate. I think, like, for me, I think when starting the gym, it would have been very easy to have stopped the rugby and given up the rugby. But there's just something inside you, isn't there, that, you know, you just want to do it. You know, it's just a burning desire, and then because of that, you find a way to make it work. And, you know, maybe one or two other things get sacrificed, but that's what you've got to do, isn't it? If you want to, you know, if you want to try and excel in something, you know.
Definitely. And that word sacrifice, I think, is interesting as well, because when it's a choice, so if you choose to spend your time doing one thing, it becomes a choice and not a sacrifice, and it becomes a positive thing. It becomes a negative rather than a negative thing. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out because I've like sacrificed something. I've chosen to put weightlifting on top of those.
It's a choice.
Things.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've chosen to put teaching on. I've chosen to prioritize that over other things, and I'm happy about that. I don't feel like I've sacrificed something. I don't feel like I'm missing out. That's how I want to live my life, and I'm happy about that.
That's quality, mate. That's a fantastic mindset. Like, it's not everybody's always like that. You'll hear some people say, "Oh, yeah, you know, I can't do this, can't do that," 'cause I'm trying to do that. But it's, you know, it is a choice, isn't it? You know, it is a choice, as you say. What are the is secondary school you teach, isn't it?
Secondary school English.
English. What the kids like? Do they know about do they know about your achievements? Like,
They love it.
do they understand the sport and how strong you are, and how does that?
I always after competitions, I always bring in my medal. I always I show them videos. Like, they love it. It's really good. Like, I think it's important to the school I work at, it's in quite a deprived area, so I think it's really important to have that positive that positive kind of role model in their lives, to show
Big
them
time, mate. Big time.
You can be successful. Like, someone close to home can be successful. Like, you're not doomed by your surroundings. So I try to make a point of just trying to be a good role model for them. So I always show them videos. I always show them, bring in my medals for them, and I think it helps with the student-teacher relationship as well. So it helps to get them on side as well.
Mate, that's amazing. They must think they must be just in awe, mate, and just think he's absolute superhero. That's so cool. That's amazing. What an amazing inspiration for those kids. I think when thinking back to when I was at school, sometimes your teachers you wouldn't really see a personality outside of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you can be saying in the adult world as well, in the gym, we try and promote. I've been really bad for it, but I'm actually starting to now try and promote what I do outside of it as well. With I only started posting rugby stuff a year or two ago, and obviously the other guys do the same as well. I think it's really cool for the kids to, or imagine it's really cool for the kids to see that it's not just Mr. Shergill, the teacher. It's actually Jazz, this amazing weightlifter on the side as well. So they
give them something to connect to, I think.
yeah, absolutely.
When you give something of yourself, that gives it helps to facilitate that relationship.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's worked well. It's been good for my teaching, and hopefully I do show them that you can. I can be a positive role model for them as well.
Yeah, sure, man. You can achieve. Yeah, that's huge, man. That's awesome. Let's start from the beginning then. So you said you've been weightlifting a long time.
Yeah.
Take us through that and how it started.
Yeah, so I had my first. When people ask me when do you start weightlifting, I always say 12. I had my first competition when I was 12, but in reality, I started exercising, training pretty much as soon as I could walk. My dad got me into weightlifting, and he was he really valued being strong, being healthy, being fit. So he got me into weightlifting, and so he always I have a lot of brothers and sisters, and he always cultivated that in all of us. So literally exercising, being mindful of your health, that's something that was always important to me for as long as I can remember. And then my first competition I had when I was 12, I weighed 30 kilograms. I snatched 25, a clean jerk 35. I still have my trophy from that day. Yeah, remember it very clearly.
That's amazing, mate. You're only 35 kilo now, so it's not much.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
Just a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, you certainly do. Yeah. What are your PBs right now, mate? You gotta.
So I'll go training PBs. It's funny, if I tell someone my PB, other than snatch and clean jerk, they'll probably think I'm a pretty average weightlifter.
Yeah.
But I'm just really good at getting the most out of my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go back squat 175, front squat 160, deadlift 190. I did at the MSC powerlifting comp, which is a fun day.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
And then snatch in training 110, in comp 111, clean and jerk 140 in training, 148 in competition. I've jerked 155. Jerk's probably my strongest lift.
Yeah.
And I think that covers the main exercises.
Would you put the jerk being your strongest lift down to your speed? Do you think that's a speed?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm really good at changing directions really quickly.
Yeah.
And the jerk, I think, is the biggest expression of that. Just that short range of motion, that different drive. So I think that's why jerk's my strongest lift. It always has been. I remember I jerked 150 when I was about 2021, weighing 62 kilos, and then since then I don't train it. I haven't prioritized it. I don't train it. I've done 155 recently.
Yeah.
But before the Commonwealth Games, I've set myself a target. I've wrote it down in my journal. I want to jerk 160 this year. So
from a weightlifting point of view, that's like such a great lift to be your strongest at, I think, because
Yeah,
like
I agree.
your like snatch obviously is, you know, is mainly obviously you want to get as you know, as high a number as possible, but it's about getting on the board, isn't it?
Yeah,
And then clean and jerks, like where you can pull it back, which again, referencing the British last year, like or year before, that's what you did. And like if you can stand it up with that clean, you know you're in, you're in business.
definitely.
To have a strong jerk to save it, like it's just really cool. Like that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I love the exercise as well. It's like one of my favorite exercises to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So, any like when you were, I just want to put that in perspective actually before we move on. So, like for anyone who's sort of dabbled with, I'm thinking about your average gym goers and like trying to do a clean and press or clean and jerk. So, just to put that into context, Jazz is like, for our listeners, Jazz is, what do you walk around at?
65.
65 kilo, 65 kilo guy, and cleaning and jerking 148 kilo is pretty like if you just think about that for a second, that's amazing. And obviously jerking more than that as well. So for mere mortals like myself, like that's just like it's hard, and obviously I've like done a bit of weightlifting in my own training and stuff, albeit mainly breakdowns and things like that, but just to like for me to try and fathom like that kind of weight is insane, mate. So crazy stuff. When you were growing up, obviously like that's really obviously amazing to have your parents a big influence in that. Was it strength sports only for you? Did you play any other sports like growing up, or was it weightlifting?
It was always strength sports.
Yeah.
And it was always a better thing. I was always committed from a young age. Like it was never a hobby for me. Like even when I was 12, 13, I felt like an athlete.
Yeah.
Like, I had that mindset. Like it wasn't a hobby. It wasn't something I played. Like it was something I took seriously. Like even from that young age, from 12, from 13, it's something I always took seriously. So I committed to weightlifting like literally from 12. Like I wasn't. I didn't like. I played a couple of other sports like at school, but in terms of like seriously trying to get better at it was always just weightlifting.
Yeah, the other sports were like just a sidetrack. Like it was just very, very single-minded, really, in terms of your preference of sports. And from an early age, it was like, right, this is my sport. This is what I want to, this is what I want to excel in.
Definitely. Even at 12, I knew it was something I was going to do my whole life, and I've just, I've had like ups, I've had downs, but it was something I always knew I was going to see through, like even from a young age.
Yeah, talking about the ups, mate, that moves us quite nicely onto the next sort of bit. So obviously you competed for England in the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014. What an incredible achievement. I mean, talk us through that. Obviously you were balancing uni at the time, is that right?
Yep, so I was doing my English degree at Coventry. I was 21 when I competed, and it was what means the most to me about the games was actually the journey to the games. It was very tight. Like I had a lifter I was competing against in my weight category. His name was Christoph Michaelis, and me and him were back and forth. And I remember like this goes back to like when I said I was serious about it from when I was 12. I had that long-term vision. I remember losing to this lifter when I was 13. This same lifter, okay. I lost to him when I was 13. And then I won my first competition. I won the best lifter award when I was 12, and so I was like in my weight. I felt like the best young lifter in my country. And I remember like I went to a competition in Manchester, and then I was 13. It was a year later, and he like outlifted me easily. I was 13 at the time, and then I remember like being really down about it, and then. Like literally, we've been competing against each other like since then, like a number of times. He would always get the better of me, like from the age of 13, and then I beat him for the first time when I was about 19, 20, about 18, 19. So that's how much perseverance it took. So when I said I was serious about seeing this through, that's what I mean. Like I wasn't going to give up. Like I lost to him when I was 13. The first time I beat him, 18, 19, but it wasn't over at that point. Like, he beat me the next comp, you know, I beat him the next comp. Then it all came down to the last qualifier, literally. And then I won on my third attempt, like, to qualify for the games. And it took my third attempt. I remember I beat him on my second lift, on my second attempt. But then the jury overturned my lift because of a press out, so I had to repeat it. So
wow.
So just that moment, it was defining for me because it encapsulated my whole journey. Like, starting when I was 12, losing to him when I was 13, getting the better of him again, losing again, that back and forth, and it all came down to just that third attempt. Having to nail that to qualify for the games, and that's what secured it. So when I say like that Commonwealth Games means a lot to me, it's like because of that whole journey. It's not because of like the prestige of the event. It means a lot to me, of course, but it's just that whole journey, that commitment from when I was 12, that perseverance. That's what makes that games memorable to me. So qualifying for it almost meant more to me than competing at the games for me.
Amazing. Right, yeah, it's the process, isn't it? Yeah. You like leaving those. You like leaving it till the last lift.
I know. He was a really good lifter, by the way. He doesn't. I haven't seen him compete for a while, but he was a really good lifter.
Yeah. There's some good lifters around those weight classes, isn't there? It's very competitive. So, mate, that's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? What was it like to sort of pull on the vest for the first time as well? Like the England vest.
Yeah, it was my first time representing England. It was only my third international.
Yeah,
but it wasn't daunting.
Again, the process was it again because of the process, and because you have such a focus on the process. Like, it was like, right, I've got my jersey now. I'm here at the games. I'm ready. I'm the best I can be. Is that
exactly? Yeah. For me, I felt like I belonged there because of my commitment to the process. Because I qualifying for it. I was proud to qualify. I was proud to qualify for it. I knew I trained hard to get there. I felt like I belonged there, and that confidence in my preparation, that feeling of like belonging there, it just made it such a fun experience.
That's great.
I wasn't daunted at all, honestly. Like, it was my first multi-sport games ever.
Yeah.
Like, the lights, the cameras thrust in the face, like, it didn't change anything. Like, seeing myself, there was a moment actually, like, I remember coming out. I can't remember which lift it was, but I walked out and I noticed myself on the big screen. Just for like a fraction of a second, I just thought, this is so weird.
You thought, what's going on here?
Then I reverted back to reality.
Yeah, you were able to switch back pretty quickly. Yeah, probably a good thing.
Exactly. So other than that fraction of a second, like, I was just performing how I knew I was ready to. I knew it just because I have that freedom when I compete. I let go of what the event means. I let go of projecting very specific goals, because like I say, probably even more so in rugby, there's so much you can't control.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much you can't control that it's to me, it's almost silly trying to overanalyze, over project your performance to the most minute details, because it will never play out how you expect it to.
So true. Yeah.
So I think understanding that gives you a freedom when you perform, and that's what makes me love competing, and that's what makes me like a good performer, I think. Amazing.
Yeah, you definitely get people who are like, some people who are good in training, not so good on the platform, and vice versa. And that's the same across all sports, really. In rugby we say he trains like Tarzan but plays like Jane.
Yeah.
It's some people are better on the platform than others. Wicked. With just interesting actually with those Commonwealths. Did you get, like, first of all, I think it's amazing that you could enjoy that experience, definitely. And that makes me quite happy that you did. Like, I think a lot of athletes would like that. You hear about some athletes, when they're looking back at their career, obviously you're right in the middle of it, but some people looking back and they'll say, oh yeah, I didn't really enjoy this event or that event because of the stress and because of the pressures, and I didn't really take it in. But it sounds like you were really able to take in that whole experience. I mean, what a wonderful thing,
Thank you. I think what you talked about with like the stress, like I think the reason I can compete so freely is like I put myself through the stress in training. Like I make training hell. Like like I put my like I don't just mean like heavy weights all the time. I mean like I put myself in like uncomfortable positions.
Yeah.
I put myself through discomfort. I do things I'm not good at. I take small jumps. I take big jumps. I take short rests. I take long rests. I make training miserable, and I think that's why I face all my fears in training, and I think that's why when it comes to competition, that's why I can have that freedom, and that's why I can compete freely, because I make sure I face all my fears in training. You don't want to face a fear for the first time in competition. That's not the time to do it.
No, and like you say, you prepare yourself as best as possible, because on the day, there are variables and there are things that can happen. So it's just like the preparation's so key, isn't it? Putting yourself through those different scenarios in training, and and training hard, and again, like just to bore people with a rugby example, like on a Tuesday night, quite often we'll have our it's harder than a Saturday sometimes. We're absolutely flogging it and doing some pretty uncomfortable bits and pieces, and then on a Saturday you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, I've done like a 10-minute defensive set. I know we can do this. I know we can do that. So that's really cool, mate. I think that's
I always say like if you hide in training, you get found out in competition. And that's what I always tell myself. So I make sure to face anything I'm worried about, anything I'm anxious about. I face it in training first.
Mate, might have to steal that one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Quality, mate. Quality. Awesome. So, like, obviously, you had the high of Glasgow in 2014, and we're gonna sort of skip ahead a little bit and take a slightly darker turn. So, between I think it was like 2016, 2018.
Exactly. Yeah.
You had you had a bad injury, which for anyone who's general pop guys know how frustrating it is to be injured, but like especially if you're a competitive athlete and it's such a burning passion, to go through that injury and that length of time and the complications you had must have been very, very tough. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, it was. So 2014 was the Commonwealth Games. I had the high of that. The 2015 English Championships, I probably had the best performance, one of the best performances of my career. I set PBs in flats, PBs in clean jerk. So 2014, great. 2015, even better. So I was on that upward trajectory. And then 2016, I think it was, I injured my wrist, falling backwards on a PB attempt on a clean. And then what made the injury so prolonged wasn't the injury itself, it was how I managed it. There's always lessons like learned. Everything I've learned from mistakes. So I've made sure to like draw from that experience. But I didn't manage it well. I rushed to train again. There was a period when I thought, okay, I'll just rest it and then try again in a month. So my wrist just got weak and I re-injured it. And then what really got me in a hole was that there was this cycle of injury and re-injury just because of how poorly I managed my injury. And then it got to the point where the 2018 Commonwealth Games were looming. And then having those on the horizon, it just made everything worse because it put me in the position where I felt like I needed to train hard. I needed to qualify for that games. And then again, that didn't help at all because it made me manage it even worse. I rushed to train. I didn't rehab it properly, and I kept re-injuring it, and it got to the point where I missed the whole qualifying period. And an event like the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, I was happy to be there. The journey meant a lot to me. The 2018 Gold Coast Games was the Commonwealth Games I thought I could medal in. But I literally missed the whole qualifying process just due to that cycle of injury and re-injury. So that was the worst time in my career. I was in such good shape as well in 2015 before I injured my wrist. So that was a really tough time. What helped me once the 2018 once the prospect of the games passed. Was just focusing on what was necessary. That's what I wasn't doing. That's what I wasn't doing at the time. I was focusing on like what was on the horizon, like the Commonwealth Games, and having that distracted focus led me to mismanage my injury. So what helped me come back from that was just focusing on, okay, what do I need to do today to sort this wrist out? What are my immediate objectives? So I think it tied back in with what we're talking about earlier about focusing on the process, and that shift for me, like, finally got my wrist better. I stopped thinking about competitions. I stopped thinking about what was on the horizon. I just focused on, okay, what do I need to do today for my wrist? What do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do this week? And that's when it clicked. That's when my wrist got better, and that's when I was able to come back.
Amazing. I mean, like, it was the, like you say, putting that timeline on it got you in trouble, really, didn't it? You know, that, like you say, that competition phase, which is completely understandable. You've come off the back of a, you know, amazing experience in Glasgow in the 2014 Commonwealth Games, and you've had your best, you know, one of your best performances ever at 2015, and you know, you want to build, and then, like, to get that injury is so frustrating, and it's so, you know, I can certainly relate to trying to come back from an injury too quickly. So, you know, that's a completely understandable thing. But as you say, reverting back to thinking in the micro rather than like the macro, and thinking like, right, let's get myself better. Let's be able to get into certain positions again. Let's start to build the training, you know, back to you know, where we want it. And almost like putting that out the back of your mind.
The macro is the first step. Like, you know, just so you can set a timeline, just so you can
the skeleton, like the framework.
Exactly. But once I've set the macro like goal, I then really, like, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you shift your focus on, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do tomorrow? And that's when things started to click. Like, in terms of my training and my injury, I really think that approach is a big part of, like, my success.
Yeah, amazing. Like, we, you know, obviously we talked about you know, mental strength, and anyone who knows you knows how, you know, how that's, you know, one of your best assets is how mentally strong you are. That must have been really tested during that time. Did you ever think about, you know, did giving up ever come into your mind, or was it like, you know, I mean, and this is, you know, obviously a personal thing, and feel free to answer it or not answer it, but was there any dark times in there where, you know, you got down?
It was a difficult time, but never for a second like I thought about giving up.
That's the elite mentality there. Yeah, awesome.
Literally, like, not for a second. Like, it was difficult. I mismanaged it. I didn't manage it correctly. I made it harder than it should have been. But I always knew, like, on the other side of this discomfort, on the other side of this test, there's something, like, to be gained. And literally not for a second, like, did I think about giving up.
That's awesome, mate. That's quality. That's such a, again, great example of, like, that mental side of sport. I think a lot of people, even going back to when you started, and there was a guy who beat you when you were 13, and it was a bit of a shock. And then, you know, a lot of people would just, you know, go into the shell and give up. But I think, like, you know, like psychology, and I'm no expert, but, like, in life as well as, you know, in sport, is how you react to things. I think, like, makes you or breaks you, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think when you have trying times, I think the other side of those times is where growth is. So whenever I'm finding something difficult, I just remind myself that, you know, I can face it and grow, or I can stay where I am. So, you know, you can choose comfort or you can choose growth. And so whenever I'm faced with, like, a difficult situation, I just, you know, I've got that phrase in my journal, like, choose growth. So that's always what I tell myself, like, when I'm facing something difficult.
Yeah, and choose is the key word there, isn't it? Or choice, you know.
Exactly. Just having that mindfulness to know, like, what you do today determines who you are, you know, who you'll be tomorrow, you know. Yeah.
Fantastic, mate. I mean, this is the exciting part of the podcast. Well, it's all been very exciting, but this is the peak moment where I become a bit of a fanboy. So we're gonna move on to the British Championships in 2019. So myself and a few of the guys from MSC came down to watch, and I've been very fortunate that in my life I've been to a lot of sporting events in various different sports. I've grown up sport mad, so like, you know, when I was a kid, going to Twickenham to watch England, or like, you know, going to watch a football or whatever, like, you know, was a big part of my life. And like, you know, as I say, I'm very fortunate to have seen probably, you know, a more than average amount of live sport and live games. So, and that, you know, that British Championships there, that moment where you hit that last clean and jerk, like I said it at the time, that like that's, you know, that's probably the best moment of live sport I've ever seen.
Thank you, Mark.
And
I really appreciate that, mate.
I'll stick by that.
Yep.
I'll stick by that. Like that wasn't heat of the moment. And as I say, I've seen a lot of different things. You know, I've been lucky enough. Got a couple of decent contacts at FIFA. Went to the World Cup final in Russia 2018. I've been to like, you know, World Cup games in rugby. Like for a single moment, like for a 30-second or 60-second moment. I mean, the lift was obviously a lot quicker, but just the build up, the aftermath, like for that 1 minute is probably the best minute of live sport I've ever seen. So, first of all, mate, do you want to talk us through the story of what happened, and then we can go through kind of the mindset and the emotion and stuff like that. So talk about numbers and your opponent and things like that, just so people have got an idea who weren't aware of it.
So the funny thing about the experience is that on the outside, it seemed like such a random circumstance, the way it panned out, you know, the way the attempts happened, the weights I took, they actually unfolded exactly how I thought it would. The lifter I was competing against, his name's Haroon Siraj, he's a really good lifter.
Yeah, strong guy.
Yeah, great lifter. And I knew he'd outsnatch me. So it unfolded exactly how I thought it would. So I snatched 110. He snatched 117. So already he was 7 kilos in front of me. I've got to try to remember all these numbers now.
That's a big gap in weightlifting, right? For those who aren't aware, like that's a substantial amount to make up.
Definitely, you don't see it often overcome a 7 kilo gap. So after the snatch, he was 7 kilos in front of me. He snatched 3 out of 3. I snatched 2 out of 3. So he lifted really great. So he was 7 kilos in front of me. And then after the clean jerk is where it got interesting. So I clean jerked 130. He clean jerked 140, I think it was. So at this point, he was 17 kilos in front of me.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, he was 17 kilos in front of me, and I've never seen a gap like that overcome. But it unfolded how I thought it would. I told myself I would open 130, and then I would wait. Whatever he took, I was going to do 18 kilos more. That's what I told myself. So I put 130 down. I did it. You probably noticed, like when I lifted it, I walked on, I lifted it, I walked off. There was no celebration. There was no like.
Yeah, it was business. It was business. Yeah.
Exactly. I knew that was just, okay, I'm going to do 130 and then I'm going to wait. So I walked on stage, I did 130 and walked off. And then I just waited. This is like the plan all along. I do whatever he does, I will do. And at this point, the number meant nothing to me. If I needed 140, I'll take it. If I needed 145, if I needed 150, the number was arbitrary. Like whatever it was, I was going to put it on the bar. So he did 130, he opened 135. I put mine up to 143. He did 140. I put mine up to 148. So this wasn't a day for third attempt. This wasn't a day for building my total. I did 130. I was gonna wait. Whatever he did, I was gonna do 18 kilos more in total. And then he did 140, and I put 148 on the bar. And then the rest is history, I guess.
You went from 130 to 148. I'll never forget. Like there was like a gasp in the crowd, and like everyone's like looking around, like this guy's crazy. Like it was the
intention the whole time. Like open 130, whatever I need, take. That was the intention. The number was arbitrary.
Was that 130 just to save a little bit? Like, is that why you opened on 130? or were you just trying to sort of match him at the start? Or well, no, you didn't match him because he went 140, didn't he? But like, what made you sort of go 130 at the start and then?
It was the just a surprise factor.
Mate,
that's what it was. 130.
You surprised us. You surprised us. Like, we were with you pretty much day in, day out in the gym, and like it took us by surprise. That's for sure. So for your opponent, it must have rattled him.
That was the intention behind that. I wanted to come out of nowhere, put him in a position where he thought he was going to win.
Yeah. To
a position where he's forced to take more than 148, even though that would put his total well above mine. But because I've done 48, he's forced now to have to go more than 148.
He's got to go up.
That's why he had to go 149. So that was the intention behind that. It was just come out of nowhere and go from 17 kilos behind, just to first place. So that was the intention behind the big jump.
And again, for people who aren't too familiar with weightlifting, that's, to go from 130 to 148 is a humongous jump. I mean, like just for your sort of fair weather weightlifting, fan, what would be your normal sort of jump from 130? I mean, 5 kilos.
Yeah, 5 kilos, and then for first to second, approximately 5 kilos. Second to third, a couple of kilos. Yeah. I've never seen a bigger jump, to be honest.
No, I haven't.
In any level of weightlifting competition, I've never seen a big jump. No.
So that
I've been way bigger in training.
Just to put that into context again for people, like that's he's done Jazz done 130. Normal step again, you're talking 5 kilos probably second lift, and you do 130, 135, 138. Something like that. But to go from 130 to 148, so that's an 18 kilo jump, whereas a normality is like 5 kilo max, isn't it?
To put a bit more context into it, my best training clean jerk was 140.
That out of this whole podcast, that's the one for me. Like, is your normal clean and jerk in training, or your best clean and jerk in training, 140.
Yeah, I hit it once in that cycle.
And then you hit it once, you hit 140 once. Mm-hmm. And then I can even remember you trying to hit like those 138s, 140s.
143 I got buried by. I couldn't come out the clean. Yeah. Is that MSC? I cleaned at 140 and I couldn't get out of 143.
So, what an unbelievable example of like someone who's a natural born competitor, like to go, to your best in training. For a lot of people, am I wrong in thinking like for a lot of people, like their training lifts will be better than their competition lifts? Yeah. So Jazz is, so to put it into context, Jazz is best in the gym 140, and then like on the platform at the biggest like national competition there is, to go from 130 past his, just nonchalantly skip past 140, the best he's ever done, and hit 148 was absolutely insane. Like, and just again, they keep talking about it, but like the mental strength and belief to stand that up in the platform, a whole 8 kilos, which for a beginner isn't, might not be a lot, but for an advanced lifter, 8 kilos above PB is unheard of. And it was just, honestly, I can't, like, I told you I was going to be a bit of a fanboy here, but like, it was just an unbelievable moment. The build up, like from when that got announced on the board, 148, everyone's, even no one backs you there more than we do, but even we're looking at each other thinking he's gone mad here.
That's what I found funny, the juxtaposition of the whole thing. Like from the outside, it looked like this crazy scenario, but in my head, it worked out. It
was controlled and thought through.
100%. It unfolded exactly how I thought it would. I knew I'd be behind in this match, and then I knew I'd have to come back for a big attempt in the clean jerk. And that's why I opened light, because I had confidence in my ability to take that jump and to win. Like if I didn't have that confidence, I wouldn't have done that, because I wouldn't have backed myself to do that. If I would have just like built a total. and hope for him to do poorly or whatever. But that wasn't my approach.
Yeah, he was lifting well. He was on fire, wasn't he?
He got a PB total.
Yeah.
So he lifted to his best. But I think one thing I want to talk about why I think that worked out so well is one thing I do before competition is I overestimate my opponent as much as I possibly can. Like that's what I always do before a competition. So when I was thinking about what I needed to hit, I was expecting him. I forced myself to expect him to set PBs, snatch, to set PBs on clean jerk, to exceed what he's done. You know, I forced myself to overestimate my opponents rather than, because that's where your confidence and your ability to win comes in. Like, but when you're hoping for someone to lift poorly, in order for you to win, that's when it comes down to a lack of belief in your preparation and a lack of belief in your ability. So that's one thing I encourage, and something I don't hear talked about a lot. So in any sport, that's something I really encourage. Like, force yourself to overestimate your opponent. That's something I think it's really a really healthy mindset to have going into a competition.
Know that you're absolutely going to have to bring your A game and even more.
Exactly.
Yeah. Love it when a plan comes together, eh?
Yeah.
So, mate, that's, as I say, just what a battle, what a moment of life sport that was like. And just that, as I say, that 60 seconds, from like seeing that, you know, Jazz is going for 148, the commentators couldn't believe it. Yeah. And then like just hitting that jerk, mate, in the moment afterwards, that was amazing for us watching. How did it feel for you?
At the time, you probably noticed, again, I just walked off. Like, I didn't celebrate. And the reason for that was because I knew he had another lift left and I knew I had another lift left.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't celebrate. Like, even in that moment, I just cleaned up 148. In my head, I was thinking, okay, if he gets a third, I'm going to take another lift.
Yeah.
Like that even in that moment, I didn't relax.
Again, that comes back to like the pre-mindset of thinking that he is going to just be hitting everything. And he did until that last lift.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, in that lift, like, you know, I didn't celebrate. It was my second lift. He had another lift. I had another lift. I knew it wasn't over, so I didn't relax. There was no celebration. I waited for him, and you know, when he missed his third, you know, then the emotion came out. You know, then I could relax. You know, then I could exhale.
Amazing quality, mate. Yeah, mate, I don't know where to go from that. I mean, to be honest, I'm just going to round off. And just sort of, you know, obviously, I really hope this gets a lot of listeners because it's been a very, very inspirational podcast, mate.
Thank you.
So for perhaps a young weightlifter or someone looking to get into weightlifting, you know, is there any advice you'd give? I know that's quite broad, but anything that pops into your head?
Yeah. So this is my 16th year of weightlifting, and you know, there's lots of things I can say about technique and lots of things I can say about programming. But honestly, like, in my 16 years of weightlifting, the most important thing I can say to a beginner is to listen to your coach. Like, from the beginning, you know, listen to your coach. You know, have that humility to accept that someone knows better for you than you do. And I think that's where success will come. Like, of course, ask questions. Of course, and try to understand why your coach is telling you what you're doing. But you have to listen to your coach. I really think it's something that simple is one of the most important things I've learned. And I think I would even, like myself, I would have learned a lot of things a lot quicker if I listened to a lot of my early coaches a lot more openly. So, you know, everything I've learned through mistakes. So after, you know, with a long career, I made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned a lot of lessons. So that's honestly probably the single most important thing I could say to a beginning lifter. I think in this environment as well, I think they're oversaturated with information, oversaturated with knowledge. It's so easily accessible, but I really think the best thing you can do is find a coach, listen to him, and just have that long-term build-up and consistency. Something I've seen you talk about, where success comes from doing, you know, the same group of things over a consistent amount of time. It didn't come from jumping around to different methodologies. So I really do think the most important thing, find a coach, listen to him, and just build.
Mate, that's all. I like that. Listen to the coach. If any of my clients are listening to this, and take that on board. Like it's and you talk about like sustainability and longevity and stuff, and that's huge as well. I think if any top athlete I've seen, that's an absolute must, and just trusting the process. So unbelievable. Thank you very much for that. That bit of advice. And to be honest, mate, I think we could talk all day, but I think we've covered we've covered the topics we wanted to. So thank you very much, Jazz, for taking the time.
It's been a pleasure, Mark. It was a good conversation. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, and I hope to see you back at MSC very soon.
You will.
So excellent. Thank you, Jazz, and thank you to all of our viewers and listeners. I say listeners because we're now on Spotify as well as our YouTube channel. So YouTube, if you want to see mine and Jazz's handsome faces, and Spotify if you don't. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you soon. Thank you.